Well, my friends, today we are in Los Angeles, California. We're going to take a tour of this cemetery, Hillside Cemetery, and we're going to visit my surrogate grandmother, Shelley Winters. Let's do it. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. So we're at Hillside Cemetery today, and this is a Jewish cemetery here in Los Angeles, and the reason I'm here is because my surrogate, well, she used to call herself mother, but she was more my grandmother's age. Shelley Winters, the famous actress, became a good friend of mine when I think I turned, was it 23 or 24 years old? I met her right before my grandmother had died, and I went back to the funeral in Ohio. She had leukemia, and literally a week after I came back, it was the same week I came back, I was working at Jerry's Famous Deli, and Shelley Winters made an order, and we became friends in that visit, and we were friends until the rest of her life. And she would always tell me, when I die, I'm gonna be buried at Hillside right off the freeway, because that's where I had my parents buried, because they love Al Jolson. And this is Al Jolson's gravesite, this big giant fountain. Al Jolson was monumental in this town. So let me go up and show you his crypt. So if you come to the top, you can see the way it was meant to be seen from both sides now. And going inside, it says the sweet singer of Israel, which is why Shelley and her family loved him so much, was that they were Israeli and they were Jewish. And Al Jolson was a hero to them. Of course, he made history in Hollywood by making the first talking picture, jazz singer, which of course people now, because the character does blackface in there, a lot of people don't really ever want to kind of acknowledge the history of the jazz singer, but it changed everything. Ruined careers, changed careers. People that couldn't talk, had bad voices, their careers ended. But he does have a nice statue here, and she always told me that when her parents died, that she had them buried up here and she was going to be right next to them. Now, I found their grave one time when I was here, and she was not next to them, because when she had her funeral, her family only invited a very few number of people, and I was not invited. So when I finally, came up, once I knew she had a headstone, it took me forever to find her because she wasn't right next to her parents. But this is the great Al Jolson, and let's go visit Shelley because I have something to tell her. So over there was Al, and this is where Shelley's parents, I always visit them when I come out of honor to her because she was such a great person to me. Jonah Schrift and Rose Schrift. And Shelley is actually over there. There you are. It took me forever to find you once again. It always does. I feel like that's our game. Good to see you, Cookie. We miss you, Shelley. Beloved mother, grandmother, and actress. I know she had a difficult reputation sometimes, but she was nice as possibly could be to me. She had a very active role in my life when I knew her. She was always wanting to know what I was up to and who I was dating, what I was doing, what my goals were. And here to tell you, Shelley, I'm getting married next weekend. This time next week, I will officially be married to the love of my life and my soulmate. We don't fight. We finish each other's sentences. She's about the best human I could have ever hoped for. And I knew you'd want to hear it. You used to always get on me when I was dating people, and you'd say, "You're not serious. You got too many dreams and goals. Forget them. Work on your dreams." So I did. And once I accomplished my dreams, then I met her. Funny how that works, isn't it? Just wanted to come and tell you that I finally found the love of my life. And I know that you would love her, Shelley. I know. I'll get her out here to meet you soon. I know you would have loved this news. You treated me like your own son. I miss you. Rest in peace, Bubala. Let's go on inside and I'll show you some of the famous people buried in there as well. There's a lot of famous people buried in this cemetery, and I've only ever shown you guys a small handful, so I think I'll go around and show you a bunch today. What do you say? Right inside the doors, we have one of the most famous and influential comedians of all time, violin playing Jack Benny. If you wonder how influential he was, look at Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson idolized Jack Benny. Ed McMahon idolized Jack Benny. Pretty much everybody of their day idolized Jack Benny. It says, a gentle man. My favorite Jack Benny story is when I met Mel Blanc's son Noel, and he told me about how his dad and Jack Benny were best friends up at Big Bear. And he said they would always go over and have fried chicken every day. And one day, Jack was wearing like a hunting coat kind of thing. And he showed up over at Mel Blanc's house, and Mel's wife looks at him and goes, Jack, why do you have grease all over your jacket? And said, looks in his pockets, and he had, at the chicken restaurant, been grabbing chicken legs, wrapping them in napkins and putting them in his pocket for when they went out on the boat later. And all the grease had seeped through the jacket. Classic. Over here we have television producer, film producer, sometimes writer, sometimes actor, Aaron Spelling, the man who brought us Charlie's Angels, Heart to Heart, Beverly Hills 90210, The Love Boat, Dynasty, Melrose Place, Charmed, all that stuff. Major, major talent in this town. Loving husband, beloved father. Heck of a great television creator. I did a whole vlog on Aaron if you want to find out more of his story. It's pretty fascinating. Now we'll go outside. There's a couple of famous people out here. In fact, one that I've become even more of a fan of since I was here. Here we have a tree right in front. You can see it has a little house thing on there. In memory of Michael Landon. So obviously, we're at Michael's grave. Try and cover this up so you can see it. Michael's actually right here on this side right there. The great Little Joe from Bonanza, but even way more important in my opinion is Little House on the Prairie and Highway to Heaven. Both shows amazing. Victor French in both of them. Michael Landon, really, I feel like more people need to watch Little House, and I think people would be way more self-reliant in the world. You can see people have left tributes to him down there. Kind of sad that so many people can't do anything for themselves, and I think watching that show kind of reminds us of what life's all about. Right here we have Max Factor Jr. Makeup man. Famous makeup man. There's Max Factor Jr. Max Factor Sr. He did all of Hollywood's makeup back in the day. Over here's Hall of Fame home run hitter, the Detroit Tigers, Mr. Hank Greenberg. Distinguished member of the Hall of Fame. Boy, could that guy clobber some baseballs. Look who else is buried here. Right here, we have Steve Lawrence. Remember Steve and Edie? Steve Lawrence, husband, father, grandfather. We may not go far, but sure as a star, wherever we are, it's together. Count on it. Then here is their son, the babe, Michael Lawrence. And it says, to bear the unbearable sorrow, we remember the joy and laughter. Our love is everlasting, and parting is not goodbye. We'll be together again. And right on the other side is Edie. Edie Gourmet Lawrence, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year, but ever in a day. Parting is not goodbye, we'll be together again, count on it. So I showed you little Joe from Bonanza. What about Lorne Greene? The great Lorne Greene, Ben Cartwright. Right there's his grave. World's best loved father, Ben Cartwright. The great voice of Canada, finally stilled, but silenced never. The dear voice of our loving husband, father, and grandfather will sing in our hearts forever. Yeah, he was great. He was literally the voice of Canada. And he built a replica of the Bonanza house on a golf course that he was involved in Arizona. And I went out and vlogged it, and then the people that owned it reached out and said, come on back, we'll let you in. And I vlogged it. It is amazing. So if you want to see it, look up Lorne Greene's Bonanza house on YouTube and you'll find my video. Pretty amazing. But he also has somebody else pretty heavily tied to television right beside him. So as we come over to this one that says Bershad, down here in the corner it says Sheldon Leonard. And Sheldon Leonard was a famous producer and director back in his day. He did the Dick Van Dyke Show, Make Room for Daddy, and when he had Andy Griffith as a guest on Make Room for Daddy, that spawned off the Andy Griffith Show. He did Murder, She Wrote, and he was the bartender in It's a Wonderful Life. So he was a heavy hitter in film history, and actually, Sheldon Leonard, they separated his name to come up with the character names for The Big Bang Theory. And over here we have television staple personality. She had her own shows. She was a singer. She did a little bit of everything. Miss Dinah Shore, loved by all who knew her and millions who never did. Isn't that the way it always goes? So right over here by the waterfalls, they have the great Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock. That's a pretty interesting one. Beloved husband, father, even has the Spock hand signal insignia on there. People have drawn pictures of Spock on the rock. That's really good. Looks like his family's been out here. That is awesome. So over here we have the great Jerry Weintraub. He was like a tour manager, booking agent kind of guy for a long time. He worked for Elvis, Frank Sinatra, the Four Seasons, Bob Dylan, Led Zeppelin. I always knew him because when I was a kid, I had a Karate Kid poster on my wall, and he was the producer of that. So guy's done tons and tons of stuff. You can see his name is right here. It says, no one knew him will ever forget him. Beloved husband, father, grandfather, friend, and lover, Jerry Weintraub. It's a great documentary on him also. It looks like his wife just passed recently because they have a temporary placard for her down here on the ground. People have left him cigars and things like that down there. Interesting guy for sure. The documentary is amazing if you want to find out more. Now we're going to one I've never been to before. So here we have the grave of the great Vic Morrow. It says, I loved him as dad. To everyone else, he was Vic. His daughter was Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I read at the time of his death that they weren't talking. They had had some sort of falling out, but he was on Combat. I remember him as being the other coach on Bad News Bears growing up. He was in King Creole with Elvis, but probably his, I guess, biggest note in history is the crazy, sad way that he died. He was making Twilight Zone the movie in 1982, and he was cast to play a racist who goes back in time, and during one of the scenes they were filming helicopters flying low, and he had 2 children actors with him in his scene, and the stunt helicopter was told to fly lower than it was allowed to, and it ended up losing control and killing everyone. The blades went crazy, and you can imagine what happened. Led to a huge court case and everything. But 3 actors lost their life, and they were filming at a time there were rules where the children weren't even allowed to be on the set at that time. So kind of crazy. Very sad story. Rest in peace, Vic Morrow. All right, I found one over here in a totally different part of the cemetery I've never been to. I've wanted to see for a while. Here we have the great, I think he pronounced it Sorel Bouquet. Beloved Pa, Grandpa, brother, and boss. And if you're wondering, boss, what's that mean? Well, that was Boss Hogg, y'all. The old boss. The old fat man in the white suit, they always used to call him. Roscoe's buddy, Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard. 7 years he was on that show. Classic. He had a great story. I mean, he was actually an Army lieutenant and everything before he became an actor. And then when he got on the show, he became good friends with James Best. And he said those two used to go fishing all the time together. They were great friends off camera. So rest in peace, Boss Hogg. One I have visited before, however, he was so important and so great that I have to visit him again. The great Mo Howard from the Three Stooges. He didn't necessarily start the group, it was Ted Healy, but when they left Ted Healy so that they could make some real money and be treated fairly, Mo took over everything, ran the show, took care of all the guys, even when they got old and went to nursing homes. Mo still took care of everything. Mo was fair to everyone. Love you, Mo Howard. Here he lies with his wife, Helen Howard. And it looks like they have a new resident coming soon. So here we have comedy legend, Uncle Milty. In the first wave of TV, he was like the biggest thing there was, Milton Berle. He went from vaudeville all the way to being in his last role on Kenan and Kel in 2000. So his career, I think, spanned 8 decades, they said. He was, the king of comedy. He was also known behind the scenes to be kind of a mean guy, I've heard. He was a staple at the Friars Club. He's in the Rat music videos because his nephew, I guess, was the manager of Rat. But he used to, I guess in his autobiography, he talks about, Milton Berle was kind of known to have a rather large penis. It's always been talked about. I mean, it's kind of like everybody in the world that has ever talked about Milton Berle always brings that up. And in his autobiography, he claimed that he slept with like tons of stars. He said from Betty Hutton to Marilyn Monroe. He said that he was a Christian Scientist for 20 years, which was kind of surprising to me. But in the end, he did his last role in 2000 and then found out that he had a tumor. And he announced to the world that he had found out that the tumor was growing so rapidly that there was not much they could do. He died on the same day as Dudley Moore and Billy Wilder. Now, I don't know why they buried him here, because apparently it said that he had left arrangements saying that he wanted to be buried at Mount Sinai, which is over by Forest Lawn next to his second wife, Ruth. But in the end, his body was cremated and interred here. Beloved Grandpa Milton Berle. My friends, I hope you enjoyed our tour of Hillside Cemetery today in Los Angeles. I really wanted to come and, tell Shelly the good news and tell her I'm about to be a married man. So just thought we'd take a tour while we were here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you next time from Los Angeles, California. Have a great night and goodbye.